But Vash, it's actually a highly complex and innovative storyline, because when you get to the eroge scenes in the visual novel, but I'm not talking about the visual novel, am I? I don't want to make this video just to rag on the Fate series or anything, because as it happens, I genuinely want it to succeed and improve. Truthfully, I'm just here to complain about some issues I've had with the series. So if you haven't seen, like, at the bare minimum, the mainline Fate entries, then put this video off until you do. I'd still recommend it in spite of my problems with the franchise. And personally, I'd say to just start with 0, as it'll motivate you enough to continue sifting through the others. Without further ado though, let's talk Fate and the Type Moon universe. My main problems with the Fate series almost always stems directly from the main protagonist and how they force every other character in the world to be dumbed down and lifeless just to fulfill somebody's garbage self-insert fantasy. Everything that the anime attempts to set up, all the intrigue and possibilities, just get tossed straight out the window so that we can see Shiro get a girlfriend, and then magically gain God mode to fight off everything and everyone. Only in Fate can you have King Arthur, Gilgamesh, Medea, Medusa, Sasaki Kojiro, and Hercules all in the same city, and still have it feel like a trashy rom-com, where the lifeless, uninspired original character gets more screen time than any of them, without it feeling worthwhile or warranted in the slightest. Take Unlimited Blade Works, for example. Who did this? Who was it? So, you mean to tell me that servants can be summoned from any point in time, any place, as long as they have had some impact on humanity to a certain degree? You're telling me you could summon anyone at all. You could have like Genghis Khan or something. I don't even care. And let me remind you, this is the same anime that has brought us the likes of Nero and Merlin. But you decide to bring in the future version of the main character, except from an alternate timeline, to create a new level of tomfoolery where we now listen to the most ham-handed debate about morality that has managed to just be reduced into nothing more than a good versus bad argument. Incredible. Only in Fate can you have literal kings and warriors speaking of their past lives and experiences, only to be talked down by like some 15-year-old spouting some garbage like. And you know, I wouldn't even mind Shiro just being a worthless piece of cardboard just so he can have a harem or whatever. I really wouldn't. I could care less if this was just another fantasy, isekai, harem nonsense story where you just see a guy live a fantastical cliched life. I really wouldn't. But it's the fact that all of these historical figures are present and written in such a way that while they're certainly not 100% accurate, there's enough effort put into making them feel like legitimately impactful people, making their motives and mannerisms engaging enough that you want to see more of them and witness more of their interactions with the modern world. That it's painful to see the premise reduced to this mush. And it's exactly because Fate Zero makes full use of the premise and stars worthwhile characters that's the one entry that gets the most respect. Not just because it has flashy, explosive, ufotable animation, but because the narrative itself and the characters were of high quality, with the animation as an added bonus. Iskandar, Gilgamesh, and Saber are all amazing characters in Zero, as they get time to come into their own as historical figures who've been pulled into the modern day, now forced to see things for what they are. Iskandar understanding just how large the world was and how minuscule his life and all his conquests were in comparison. Saber dissatisfied with her life, struggling with feelings of obligation and what it means to be a king. Even the original characters in Zero managed to be compelling. Kiritsugu, Karya, Kirei, they have a life to them that characters in the mainline series, excluding Rin, but I'll get to her, lack. As I go through more of these Type Moon anime or the Type Moon whatever, I realize that the reason Stay Night, the 2006 Fate anime, is as hated as it is because this is what Fate's like when there's no ufotable animation. The same wasted premise, the same one-note characters. This is what Fate is underneath the hood. Shiro spouting some cliched nonsense, all his friends being the most forgettable, non-existent, generic anime characters ever. Sakura just being someone's shy girl fantasy. Shinji being stupidly over-the-top evil just to make a villain for villain's sake. Saber and all the other servants becoming worthless when Shiro comes around. And Rin being the only saving grace due to her feeling so competently written that she feels like she's the main character from a better anime or something. Do you remember how mana's replenished? No? Well, don't worry, because every one of the 3 routes makes sure to cram in a replenishing scene or 2, because who wanted to watch the actual story anyway? And I'm not even touching the really weird junk yet. Like we are in the shallow end of the pool right now. Stuff like Shiro being a self-insert piece of garbage and all the non-servant characters except for Rin being one-note forgettable mush. All that's just surface level. Remember how Ilya is Shiro's sister / half-sister and their relationship? Remember how Castor and Soichiro were romantically involved to some extent and it managed to be a better romance than any other in the whole mainline Fate series? Remember Shinji's whole existence and everything he does having no purpose whatsoever other than to get on your nerves? Remember how Rin and Sakura are actually sisters because Rin's father sold his own daughter for 62 cents? Well, apparently no one else did because it never amounts to anything other than bringing it up once every blue moon. Remember Gilgamesh and his noble phantasm? Remember how Sakura got thrown into a hentai pit where she's tortured day in and day out to make her a servant? Remember how in Heaven's Field they affect her arousal so she can go be with Cardboard Boy? Yet in Fate Zero, Karya, whose body is overrun with those same exact crest worms, just endures overwhelming pain and suffering that eventually kills him? Remember Assassin? But while it is true that I disliked Stay Night and Unlimited Blade Works, they still piqued my interest enough for me to go through more of the Fate series. And the Heaven's Field movies were actually pretty good. Well, mostly. The first film was a great change of pace, servants getting off left and right, and a mystery building up. And while it didn't utilize the characters to the fullest like Zero, it was still some solid entertainment, and the same goes for the second movie too. At least till like the second half when Shiro comes in and now it's just some whack romance drama garbage. But then 3 cleaned things up sort of with some action and flashy lights and stuff. You know what? Ryder is actually a pretty cool servant. She just barely ever gets to do anything at all in the main Fate animes that I often forget she's even there half the time. Actually, all the Ryder class servs have been pretty good characters, which is a great way for me to lead into the other Fate series. Fate Apocrypha had an interesting idea of making a large-scale war with a ton of servants, with them being the focus, but it could have used more episodes to flesh out the servants, as most of them and all the characters actually were fairly forgettable. Although Astolfo was here, and I honestly just expected him to be a meme, like haha, he's a dude, tee hee haha, and that's it. But he was actually one of the more compelling characters with his sincere personality, along with Mordred. Fate Extra was kind of the same deal, where there's a new concept that got pretty rushed, but not only the servants, but all the characters in Extra end up being intriguing, even Shinji, as they give him and the rest of the OC's actual motivations. Opening wise, Fate Extra and Fate Apocrypha do not get enough praise. Like, Fate Extra's Nero is already probably the best Saber class servant, but then she gets this epic opening too, and then Apocrypha's opening successfully manages to better encapsulate the chaos and energy of the Holy Grail Wars than any other entry. And then you got Fate Zero's first opening, which is just legendary in its own right for making Saber almost seem like a character whose popularity is earned, as well as showing off the visuals for the anime and each character's dynamic with their servant. Man, that last shot of Karya is just heartbreaking, dude. The last thing I wanted to talk about here is the servants, as well as the master-servant dynamic between, well, masters and servants in Fate. The reason Saber is only really good in Zero is because in every other series she is in, mainly the ones with Shiro, she just exists to be part of Shiro's harem and doesn't think or do much of anything notable. Her with Kirisugu was a neat pairing as it put two opposites together and made for some absorbing moments as she struggled with his way of doing things. Iskandar and Waver are a great one, with Iskandar taking on like an older sibling / mentor type of role towards Waver. Lancer and every Lancer class servant ever never managed to catch a break. Legit, they are always some of the most straightforward, chill people, and then they just die. Caster and that one murderer guy from Zero were also solid, even as though they were like both bizarro murderers and weirdos. They were similar to like Kuzuki and Caster in that way, where their conversations with one another were always engaging, even if you didn't like them. What else? What else do I want to say before I wrap up here? Oh yeah, the best of the mainline Fates was that one special / prologue thing for Unlimited Blade Works, I think, where Rin was the main character. I'll never forgive them for that. I actually thought that since it was her route, she was gonna be the main character. That's what I thought this meant before I knew. But of course, they lied to me. Kanan, whatever, and Tsukihime were pretty whack. Kanan was just downright boring and uninteresting, with people talking about absolutely nothing for extended periods of time, while Tsukihime is just the Dean adaptation to Stay Night, but even worse somehow with more nonsense. And the Garden of Sinners movies they're okay.
They're okay.
Don't have anything bad to say, but I don't think they do anything all too incredible either. Carnival Phantasm is just so stupid. The jokes like Lancer trying not to die, or Kojiro just hanging out in the middle of nowhere, or Neko arc, like this stuff is not funny. I'm not laughing at something so this is stupid, man. My sense of humor is broken or something. I was going through the Grand Order Babylonia anime, and it was just wholly uninteresting. Yeah, Ishtar is cool, and Gilgamesh and Merlin were there, but watching it felt like work, so I'm just done with it. Still never watched El Melioli, whatever. Maybe I will, maybe I won't, I don't know. And Fate Prototype, as short as it was, seemed like it would make for a better version of the mainline Fate entries if they had just gone through with it. I did check out the Grand Order mobile game. Originally, I downloaded it just so I could clown on it in this video, but truthfully, there's nothing even in it worth cracking on like that. I mean, yeah, it's just like Raid or most of the mobile games where the gameplay barely exists and it's a bunch of, you just roll for more characters and watch numbers get bigger, spend more money and all that junk. That's not and never really has been my thing. But Grand Order's gameplay was just bland. But I did find that playing through the first couple of first two areas or whatever, and reading through the story, getting some dialogue options, was a lot more enjoyable than the anime version. If there was more focus on dialogue options, character interactions, and story, maybe I'd give it more of a chance, but I'm pretty much done. I did make a deal with myself when I downloaded the game though, saying that if I got Astolfo, Iskandar, Medea, or pretty much any of those guys, then I'd play it all the way through. And surprise, surprise, I got some lady with a spear or something. I don't even know who it is. Haven't played since. Anyways, I always go on tangents when I get to thinking about Fate. I don't even know what I was talking about anymore. Point is, I've continued to watching the Fate series because the ideas are so promising with so much potential, which is why I keep putting myself through this garbage in the vain hope that one will eventually be a gem, or at least something worthwhile like Zero was. I do the same thing with a lot of the larger anime franchises that I try and start with, but it seems more and more like I'm on a never-ending goose hunt, duck hunt, chase, whatever. Basically, if I see one more Astolfo meme with a link to hentai, so help me out.